Don't go into a psychology degree without considering these things first. I recently earned my master's degree in psychology and I absolutely regret it. One of the things you need to consider when thinking about earning a degree in any subject are your goals. If you don't have your goals aligned, you won't be able to figure out what you want to do with that degree once you earn it. In psychology, there are actually two routes you can take to further your career. One is therapy and the other is research. With therapy, you are most likely in a clinical setting, and you will be applying your counseling theories that you have learned in college to an individual or a group of people. Research psychology focuses more on understanding why people do what they do. This is originally what I wanted to do when I stepped into a psychology degree, and boy did I not consider important things. So research psychology, you will most likely be working as a research assistant to start, and then after that you can become a research scientist, you can be a research psychologist, but a lot of these do require advanced degrees. So with your goals, one of the things you want to figure out before pursuing a degree in psychology is whether or not you want to help people or study people. My original goal was to study people, and now I'm in this mess that I'm in right now, which I'll dive into further later. Another goal that you want to have in mind is whether or not you want to work remotely or in person. Now, both therapy and research approaches can do either or. However, remote is actually going to be, in my opinion, easier to obtain when pursuing therapy. So with therapy, telehealth has actually become more and more popular. Therefore, there are plenty of job opportunities, in my opinion, at least in my area. Double check with your area and all that. But in my area, it seems like there is an abundance of therapy positions that are remote work. With research psychology, there are a good amount of positions available for research assistants. However, it's going to be more competitive. Another thing with deciding on remote versus in-person is whether or not you are wanting to commute a far distance. For example, if you are in a small town and you're kind of far away from major cities, the big cities will actually hold more research opportunities than, say, a small town. This is because, you know, most research facilities are based in cities like Philadelphia or Baltimore, you know, that type of stuff. So just decide on how far you're willing to travel for your job. Another thing to consider is if you want a doctorate or not. Now, a doctorate is a long-term commitment that can take anywhere from 4 to 8 years to complete due to the dissertation that you have to complete when you are done your education. I originally started going into psychology with the idea of getting a doctorate, but after being in school for so long, the doctorate is no longer in my vision for my future. If you don't have a clear goal and intention for what you want to do with your psychology degree, you will struggle with your career opportunities. Another thing to consider when pursuing a master's or a bachelor's in psychology is the idea that experience matters more than degrees today. So in my opinion, it seems as though degrees are not really going to get you a job in a psychology department. Obviously, if you are becoming a doctor, you need a medical degree to back up the fact that you have earned your education for that. The same applies to therapy. Obviously, if you are going the therapy route, you will need a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling or counseling psychology, and that will lead you to the proper steps to obtain a license in your state. Now, I've actually earned a bachelor's and a master's degree in general psychology, and even with a high GPA, I am still getting declined job offers. So what that means is even though I have good grades and stellar work in my education process, it is not enough to actually obtain me the job. I don't get a chance for interviews, and honestly, your work that you have done is more important than the actual piece of paper for your degree. The status of it basically does not matter too much because a lot of employers will care more about your experience and your capability to actually do the job. Therefore, as a result, it kind of seems like degrees are more expected on resumes. Now, if you're considering going into research psychology, I want to warn you with being very careful. So I want you to pay close attention to your location, right? If you are in a small town, you will either need to move or commute to larger cities. Now, the reason for this is mainly research facilities are conducted through cities. I'm not exactly sure why, but it's just where they're usually held. I'm sure there's a reason for that. But if you want to obtain an in-person position as a research assistant for research psychology, you will need to be located near, around, or in larger cities. The only issue with that is obviously if you are female, you know, cities can be dangerous to live in, and they can be dangerous for men too, so just keep that in mind. If you are looking to go into research psychology, be aware that remote work is actually highly competitive. There may be plenty of research assistant positions. A lot of these are in psychology or they're in biology, and to be honest, they are very difficult to get into because of how esteemed they can be. So basically, if you are applying to a remote research position for psychology, they will look to make sure you can actually do the job. Now, education, in my opinion, should be enough to say that you should be able to do the job. However, for employers in today's day and age in the job market, that is just not the case. If you have no experience, you will not find a job without connections. Regarding what I said earlier, your degree is basically expected, therefore it means very little on a resume. So the weight that it holds is not as much as experience. If you go into a remote work situation for research psychology, I have found that even though I have 2 degrees in psychology, one being a bachelor's and one a master's, I still am unable to find a position that is remote work. Now, the reason for this is because I don't have the work experience for a research assistant, and that is crucial to actually earning a position in the field because it proves that you are able to do the work. Now, if you're in person, they are able to keep a close eye on you and make sure that you are able to complete the work to their standard. If you're remote, however, this is why it's so competitive and why the experience means a lot more, is because if you're remote, they actually can't really keep an eye on you besides the work that you produce. So why would they take a chance on somebody who has no proof that they can do the job over somebody who has experience, right? So if you're looking to strictly earn a master's degree or a bachelor's in psychology, and your goal is to go into research psychology for remote work, be very, very careful and pay attention to your location, and make sure you earn experience on the side while you're in your degree. Overall, my one regret is earning a general psychology bachelor's and master's degree. General psychology master's degrees are a lot less worth it, in my opinion, than, say, earning a counseling degree, because the counseling degree actually matters and will get you a position in the end. I never really wanted to go into therapy when I first thought of psychology. However, treatment in some form is a major part of psychology. Psychologists and therapists are those who make the most and have the most saturated job markets these days. So if you are looking at psychology and looking to go into research, again, just be very careful with where you're going, because I am in a position where I can't find a job right now just because I don't have the experience. All in all, whether it be a psychology degree or a degree in another subject, just make sure you think through your choice and make sure there are jobs available to back your education. If you did watch and enjoy this video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe for more podcast videos. But that's gonna do it for this one, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!